Ephesians 2:10 tells us that we are God's masterpiece. When's the last time you ever saw a masterpiece? I'm lucky enough to have a house full of kids, which means they're always bringing me incredible work. Some are right behind me over my shoulder. But sometimes they bring things like this completed Lego set. Look at this thing. These are so much cooler than the Legos I grew up with. Look at that little Iron Man hiding in there. Anybody else grow up in a house that loved Legos? I mean, I did. My brothers and I had this giant tub in our basement full of every kind and shape and color piece that you could possibly imagine. And not quite like this, but everything else. And we would dump those things on the floor and just do whatever we could imagine and build these giant things. We'd huddle around and my kids, we've got 6 kids now, and they have all loved doing Legos. And so we do this with them. And when they're done, they bring down their created masterpiece, whether it's Baby Yoda or this giant building they imagined or the Hulk busting Iron Man set. And I love Legos, but I don't always love finding an individual Lego. And you probably know why, because sometimes a piece will come off the set, just a single lonely piece like this one. And you know how you find it when it does? You find it with the bottom of your foot, usually late at night in the most painful possible angle. And when that happens, I hate the Lego that I have just stepped on. But it kind of makes sense because, you know what? Legos aren't actually meant to be solo toys, right? Nobody ever sells an individual piece or packs a single piece to bring to a friend's house, right? You bring the set, you bring the collection, because the joy of the Lego is what they do together. Legos aren't meant to be alone. When it's all of the pieces coming together, that's when they're the masterpiece. And that's actually kind of like you and I are built. I mean, that passage from Ephesians 2:10, it says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so that we can do the good things he had planned for us long ago." But you know what it doesn't say? It doesn't say that each of us is a masterpiece on our own. No, it actually says that we, people like you and people like me, when you put us together in community, that community, that coming together is a masterpiece. Just like the Legos weren't meant to be alone, we were also meant to be a part of something bigger. And it turns out that my life isn't supposed to be all about me, right? I mean, it's supposed to be about us. We are supposed to be my focus. The Bible uses its own metaphor for this, which you can see in Romans 12 or even 1 Corinthians 12. Lots of 12s here. Romans 12, 4 and 5 tells us, "Just as our bodies have many parts and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body and we all belong to each other." To get that? So we're all made for special and different purposes, and we're all made to fit together to be a part of something bigger. And this is such a crazy thing because, so much of our modern society tells us that what we're supposed to do is become all things, to be the best at everything. And where we have weakness, we're supposed to find perfection. But instead, the Bible is saying that God made us to be strong in some areas and weak in some others so that we could find the people with those different gifts and be connected to them. Which means that your strengths might be what cover my weaknesses. And my gifts might help you in the places where you have need. And it's kind of crazy, right? And I think it's even part of the reason that we don't really see Jesus and his followers out on their own. I mean, he sent people in twos, and sometimes he sent people as groups, like the 12 disciples. There's a group, or even a bigger one sometimes. But you don't really see Jesus being like, "Hey, you one person, go off and do that thing over there," right? We do see a couple times where that happens, though, and they're not usually good times. I mean, think about Judas for a minute, right? Judas, he goes off by himself right before he betrays Jesus to go sell him for this little bit of money. And then we see Peter after the betrayal. He goes off by himself. He's sneaking along, trying to figure out what's going on with Jesus, and then he denies him 3 times. So I think that we can see that there are some times, but they're not good times. And, on their own, that those first followers of Jesus, they were kind of overwhelmed by their shortcomings. They were overwhelmed by their failures, their struggles, their challenges, their weaknesses, kind of like we still are today. But when they came together, when they followed Jesus together, they became a church. And they turned into, instead of a collection of misfits, a collection of museum-worthy masterpieces. It's still true for us today. God designed you to be a masterpiece, part of a community of people who are following Jesus by your side. And that's going to be where you discover the growth, the transformation, the relationships, the wholeness, the hope, the joy, the love, all the amazing things that God has in store for you, that he has designed you for, you will experience in the context of those relationships. Remember, God didn't build us to be Legos on our own, all potential, no connection. He designed us to be connected to others so that when you put us all together, we form something bigger and get to be a part of an actual masterpiece. So if you're ready to take some next steps, here's some questions that you can think through or even discuss with some friends. First, when have you been burned by me first living? And don't worry, all of us have. Second, what makes it so hard to set aside me first living and instead embrace real community and we first living instead? See what I did there, right? And third and last, when have you seen someone else's gifts change your life in a way that you could not have changed your life on your own? Looking to go further? You can head to churchofwonders.com and download this week's Bible study and find a clearer picture of what God has in store for you, revealed through his word.